Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA AM 1050 FM 106.5 and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, TV Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and more. This is an NBC Sports, NBC News, and CNBC News channel, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm so happy that you're here. This is my, let's see, we didn't put the banner up yet, but it is my 647th consecutive week on the air on camera, but who's counting? And this is show number 1236. And I'm so delighted. We have a number of guests with me today. We are celebrating the first ever Glucose Awareness Week. And I have Dr. Wade here to be part of the conversation. And then we have Jane Dorian coming on to talk about her godfather and the fabulous estate with all of the celebrity history that is going to be an amazing interview. I'm going to take a quick break for news and weather. Have that quick interview when we come back with Dr. Wade, and then go into the interview with Jane Dorian. So don't go away. We'll be right back in 2 and 2. Remember Chuck Woolery, but you know, for me, it is peace in and peace out.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, the station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, my YouTube TV channel, where I have in studio today a very special guest to highlight National Glucose Awareness. His name is Dr. Thomas Grace. Welcome to the studio.
Dr.
Sorry, I was a little late on your applause there. But happy
It's
to
all
have
right. No problem.
Absolutely
Excited to be here to talk about the first ever National Glucose Awareness Week, right? As we know, there's more than 136 million people in the United States diagnosed with either type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. But what is more alarming is that over 80% of people with prediabetes don't know that they have it. And an additional 20% of people with type 2 diabetes aren't aware that they have it. And again, kind of looking back at what's happened in the health landscape over the past few decades, the rates of prediabetes and the rates of type 2 diabetes are exponentially going up. And so we're excited to launch Glucose Awareness Week to get people more glucose aware and hopefully give them some insights that will help them improve their overall glucose health.
Those statistics are staggering for sure. 1/3 of our population is what we're talking about today. So I'm really glad that you're here. You're a family physician, medical director of the Blanchard Valley Diabetes Center, and head of the clinical advocacy and outcomes at Dexcom. So I'm really glad that you're here to sort of educate us and also hit me with those stats. staggering statistics. Now, why is this particular week important?
Yeah, it's our first attempt, as it's the first ever National Glucose Awareness Week, but it's our first attempt to really go out because we now have some tools that haven't been available in the past to help people become more glucose aware. We know as clinicians that there are several things that we can do at home, some lifestyle habits that we can encourage our patients to improve, right? Very frequently in the clinic, I'll tell my patients, hey, be careful with what we're eating and try and get more physical activity. But until recently, it's been difficult for patients to really understand what that means for their overall glucose health. And so recently, there has been a big improvement in overall glucose management with the launch of the world's first over-the-counter glucose biosensor available here in the United States. A product called Stelo by Dexcom. And it has really helped my patients, especially those who it was designed for with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, really understand the importance of some of those things we suggest as a clinician. When we are wearing this glucose biosensor, which is worn on the back of our arm for up to 15 days, and we can see what happens when maybe we don't make the best dietary choices, and we see what happens to our glucose, then people are encouraged to try maybe some different foods or to maybe get more physical activity because we can see the benefits of going for a walk, how it improves our overall glucose control. And yeah, we're excited for this product to be here on the market, in addition to launching a campaign to really help close that glucose awareness void that's out there.
Yeah, so we're hoping that that real-time feedback may help us make better choices for sure. What would you say are some choices that people aren't aware that they're making that are negatively affecting their glucose levels? Like, I know Krispy Kreme, definitely not a good idea. Sitting on the couch, streaming and 10 episodes without getting up, not a good idea. And that monitor, I think, is what you're saying will give you that feedback. But are there any areas that I don't know that I'm doing something that's not healthy?
Yeah, it'll also help connect the dots between the importance of several other things besides just our dietary choices and activity. Things like sleep. A lot of people don't understand that if we're not getting good quality sleep, it is stressful on our overall glucose levels. Stress. I hear this from my patient population and people in the community all the time. Man, you wouldn't believe that my glucose went up when I was under stress. Now, unfortunately, we don't have easy ways to mitigate stress, but that education is something that we're excited to help deliver people. There's also a website that is kicking off in addition to National Glucose Awareness Week called getglucoseaware.com. And so some of the very basic stuff about things like why is glucose important, some basic statistics that we talked about, some fun videos on the importance of making proper dietary choices and getting more physical activity. There's a step challenge on this website with the opportunity to win some prizes that I would encourage patients to go to getglucoseaware.com. And it's not just for people with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. It's available, and I encourage people in the community or listening to the show or watching the show to go to this website as well, just for basic education on why glucose is important.
Sounds great. I know I'm going to be visiting that website myself. I just got my annual and there was a little bit abnormal something. So before I have to meet with my doctor, I'm going to impress him by going to the website. One more time, what is that website?
Yeah, it's getglucoseaware.com. And there's another website, Stelo, STELO.com, that has more information about that over-the-counter glucose biosensor that you can get without a prescription to really help empower people with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, not on insulin, to take control of their own health and empower them to make better decisions.
I'm going to ask a not record, but a question around, I've watched all of those specials that how much corn syrup is in all the food that we don't think about and cereals and all of that. Is there something on the not warning, but on the label, nutrition label, that is related to the glucose?
Yeah, and that's carbohydrates very
Okay.
specifically. We're looking at total carbohydrates. So there are very specific recommendations based on your age, your gender, and multiple other things that quick Google search could find where your total carb intake for a day should be. But more important than that is really finding the foods that are more challenging to your glucose readings. It's been amazing to me as a practitioner in the diabetes space for the past decade that some people can eat food X and other people have to avoid it. And so with the advent of an over-the-counter biosensor, really it helps to personalize and individualize people's goals. And it helps them to really make the decisions that are best for them. It's hard to put everyone in one box and tell them, don't do this and don't do that.
Yeah, but that's great that we now have a biosensor accessible with that real time. We eat something and we'll know if that's a good or not so useful choice. Thank you so much for coming to the studio and educating us. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, again, for more information, people can go to getglucoseaware.com. And thanks, Dr. Marissa, for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and have the best day ever. And I hope that you got something from that very good information today. It is the first ever Glucose Awareness Week, and I know that I do need to pay attention to that. And I'm so delighted you see another very special guest in my studio today. Her name is Jane Dorian, and she has a very famous godfather, her celebrity godfather, Jerry Herman. He had an illustrious career. He is the reason for Hello, Dolly, Mame, Cage Au Faux, I didn't say that right, I'm sorry, Mack and Mable, Dear World, Milk and Honey, etc. And the women that would become known as Jerry's girls, Carol Channing, who I had the pleasure of meeting. I'll never forget that compliment. She told me I was beautiful. Angela Lansbury, Bernadette Peters, Pearl Bailey, Liza Minnelli, Leslie Uggams, Karen Morrow, Rita Moreno, Ethel Merman, who we had a show around not too long ago, Mary Martin, and more. And she is in charge of the Doyle Auction House, currently scheduled to offer items of historic significance on November 14th, while his crypt, which is adjacent to Marilyn Monroe and Hugh Hefner, will be auctioned on October the 25th. Please welcome to my studio, Jane Dorian.
Dr. Marissa, hello, and thank you for having me. What a joy to be with you.
Thank you. And the pleasure is mine. And I do love that Harlan, he just keeps sending really interesting people my way. And I do love him for that.
And mine.
Yes. Yeah, and I hope you'll indulge me. I usually have breakfast with my guests first thing. So instead of starting, the show with talking about what's going on in the news, which is usually bad news, if it bleeds, it leads. And I'm all about hope and happiness. We start with taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. So what is one thing that you're grateful for this morning? And we'll do really short because I want to get to all of the great things that you're doing right now.
Well, I'm grateful to be here with you to talk about the joy that Jerry Herman's music has given all of us for decades and decades and decades. Talk about optimism, talk about the antidote for all of the noise that's going on in the world. Just put on a Jerry Herman song, whether it's Tap Your Troubles Away, or If You Walked Into My Life, or Hello, Dolly, or It's Today. It doesn't matter. It's sure to bring a smile to your face and just a tune in your heart. And I am sure your day will be way better off for having listened to his music.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I am grateful that we have hot showers in this country. We have garbage trucks that make life very comfortable in America, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And then the bottom of the bun is something I want you to do before you go to bed. A lot of us are very aware of mental health now, thanks to my honorable moniker, Oprah. We talk about mental health, but a lot of us don't realize we can help ourselves with that by liking ourselves, not literally looking for likes, but actually, what do you like about yourself, so that when you go to bed, you're not thinking about all the things you didn't do right, or you haven't done yet, or who done me wrong. What do you like about yourself, Jane Dorian? Also, go ahead.
What I like about myself is that I feel I am so blessed. I wake up every single day with a beautiful family. I live in the United States of America, and I live in Los Angeles where the sun shines, and I get to promote Jerry's music. And you don't think, literally, my music machines, I've got many different kinds, because obviously they're different modalities that the music was recorded on, but just always having a song in my heart. And I love the fact, I'm just so grateful that I'm educated, that I feel like I can experience life on so many different levels, and that I've been blessed with great health. I mean, you know what, the list goes on. Your show isn't long enough. But you asked such a great question about mental health. And I jump to one song that Jerry wrote. So when Cage Au Faux was presented on Broadway back in 1983, it was just at the advent of AIDS. The AIDS was just kind of a whisper. And Cage, for your audience members who don't know, it's about two gay men who have a son, and it's about family. It really is about family and acceptance. And so there's a scene in the show where the son is getting married, and he's marrying, General Dandon's daughter, who is like the morality policeman of all of France. And the Zaza pretends to be his mother, but everything gets exposed. And the son kind of rejects their family for a moment. And it's the height of the show when Zaza sings "I Am What I Am," and it became not only a national anthem for the gay movement, but when Leslie Uggams sings that song, I mean, literally the chills come, because it is so strong and so powerful. And it basically says, I am who I am. I can accept myself. You need to accept me too. And I think that if we could just accept ourselves for who we are, not only would it be easier for everyone else to accept us, but we would walk just 2 inches taller.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great point. And beautiful song. And it is the foundation of good mental health. If you can love yourself 88% of the time, is my little, 100%. We're not perfect, and sometimes we step in it, but absolutely, if you can self-care, self-love, self-soothe, that's my formula for world peace. So thanks for having breakfast with me.
Always delicious, delectable.
Thank you. I see eyeballs rolling in. Thanks for streaming with us. If you have any questions or comments or any gratitudes, please put them there. I promise you that if you do this with me for the next 28 consecutive days, on or off the show, I'm on every weekday morning, but you can do this on your own, then you will sandwich your day in the most positive way. Thanks for joining us for breakfast. That was the wrong one. I have an affirmation trigger finger. But let's go to your godfather, who, I love the fact that one of the great things about the writer's strike was the recognition of the behind the scenes importance of the people who support the ones that are on camera.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
a hashtag silver lining, strike silver lining. I'm going to pop up some photos because first I would love for you to explain how you got to be the beloved goddaughter of Jerry Herman. And he, talks about how you are next to his mom, the most important person in his life. And I love that. So I want to start there.
Well, Jerry and I had a magical relationship. It was just pure love between the two of us. I think that first photograph of when I'm propped up on the piano and he's playing and singing to me kind of says it all. So my mother and Jerry met the first day of college when they were 17 years old. And that night they wound up at the same freshman party. And Jerry was at the piano playing the American Songbook. My mother, a trained singer, sat down next to him, and they didn't stop making music together until the day that she died. And unfortunately, we lost her way, way, way too early. But Jerry was always there until that sad day in 2019. Jerry was always there for me. And whether it was helping me with my homework or something wonderful happening to either one of us, we were always there. And ironically, with the exception of a 2-year period, we always lived in the same town and always in the same neighborhood. So we had tremendous physical proximity, but we just always knew, that line, if there's a day that's rough for me, having you there is enough for me. That's true. And that door swung both ways for us. So anyway, so the first picture I mentioned, then the second picture was my first trip to California, to Disneyland. And Jerry took me. Now you have to understand, we were from New York. And so for Jerry to cross 5 lanes of traffic in his little 2-seater Mercedes to get us to Anaheim, it was a big deal. So anyway, he took me to Disneyland. We had a wonderful time. And during that time period, I was about 11 then, he was writing Mack and Mable. So hearing all of those wonderful songs in my head and the progression. Jerry won a wonderful, I believe it was the Visa Lifetime Achievement Award, and I was there. And then when Jerry won the Kennedy Center Award in Washington, D.C., President Obama gave him the award. And that was sort of the, professionally, the highlight. The honor is, it's pretty heady walking into the White House for those people who've not had that privilege and honor. It washes over you. And for him to have received that, and that was probably the last period of time when Jerry had the energy and strength to make it through an evening. So it was special all the way around to be able to share that with him.
Oh, that is beautiful. Yeah, couple intersections in common. I didn't lose him, but my dad passed as well 2020. So a year after your mom. We know where they are.
Well, actually, Jerry passed in 2019. My mother passed away in 92 or 93. So
wow, that was very early.
And ironically, just a quick note to that, just to show you how close they were. Jerry had been diagnosed with AIDS at that point in time. And he always thought he was going to pass before my mother ever passed because they were in their early 60s at that point. Mm-hmm. And so the doctor advised him against going to New York to bury her. And he looked, he said, she's my best friend. He goes, I have 1 foot in the grave right now. What's the difference if things speed up? He goes, I have to say goodbye to my best friend, to my best girl. And he did. So, and when we get back to the crypt, I'll tell you how his crypt became available. It kind of ties in. So anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
For your loss, because losing a parent is always painful. No matter how old you are, saying that final goodbye is tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one is my father's cousin was also given that honor in the same as I.M. Pei, the architect.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm a huge fan of I.M. Pei.
Yeah. So that was I always love the connections. Small world.
Well, here's yet another connection. Now we're going to play tic-tac-toe.
Okay.
So everyone knows Jerry as a songwriter, but what most do not know is that he attended Parsons School of Design. And he always thought that he was going to be a designer or a decorator. So he had such admiration and love for really fine architecture. And that's how I wound up getting into real estate, because I always said he had restless real estate disease because he loved to buy and redo homes so many times. So here now you're looking at some of Jerry's girls. And
Yes.
it's the two most iconic are Carol Channing and Angela Lansbury. And two quick stories about Carol and Angela. Most people don't know that Carol Channing was not the first choice for Hello, Dolly, if you can believe it, because she was the most iconic. I mean, she's just synonymous with Hello, Dolly. But Jerry really wanted Ethel Merman to star in the show. I always felt that in his ear, he wrote the music for her voice. But she had just come off of a big show. She was tired and she said no. Then it was offered to Nanette Fabre and she said no. Then it was offered to Mary Martin. And as much as she wanted to do it, she was involved in a show. So she passed. And then Carol Channing was the fourth choice. So talk about destiny. Wow. I mean, can you imagine anyone other than Carol?
No.
Originated.
Yeah. And it was great meeting her.
Oh, she was an icon and a force of nature. And I think that her contribution to the theater is sometimes not understood, in the sense that she would always talk to school groups or anybody who wanted to meet her after the theater or before the theater. And she would talk to them what it was like to perform, or if they had questions about the character or the show or anything, she would always talk to them. And that took a lot of time and a lot of energy, but the allegiance to her, so she could come back and tour these same cities, every 5 to 7 years, and everybody would come back because they felt that they knew her. And the way she was able to connect generations to the theater is, I think, a gift that many people don't know about, but was very, very important. Okay, let's go to Angela. So Angela, this is a great story about Mame. So Jerry always wanted Angela Lansbury to be his Mame. He just knew. He was obviously creative, intuitive, and just really a legend in every way, shape, and form. But she had just come off of The Manchurian Candidate. And for your viewers who don't know that movie, she played the mother. And it was a very dark and unattractive role. And, wardrobe and makeup did not do much to show off her beauty or her figure. So everybody kind of said, Angela Lansbury, I don't think so, because that's the image that they had in mind. So Jerry very quietly taught her 2 songs. And when it was her time to audition, and yes, stars back then did audition, he snuck into the pit and played the 2 songs for her. And when the producers and the director and everybody else heard her sing, It's Today and If You Walked Into My Life, well, the rest, as they say, is history. She was Mame.
Wow, that's such a cool story. I mean, because I think of her with Murder, She Wrote, that is it. But that's so fabulous.
And they went on to do 3 projects together. So everyone knows about Mame. Then she did Dear World, won her 2nd Tony for that. And then they did a CBS television show called Mrs. Santa Claus. And that's a blast too. So they definitely had a long-standing history with one another.
Yeah, and I just love live. I was so lucky on Sunday. I double dipped. I went back for one more Hamilton. And then I saw the Civility of Albert Cashier, which, if you haven't seen, is incredible. I'm going to have the writer on and a couple of the actors. So it's a musical as well. I want to make sure your eyeballs get on them.
I will definitely see that. And I saw The Outsiders, which was phenomenal as well.
And here's the shout out. The reason why I'm bringing all of this up is COVID took a real bite out of live. And I think it is up to us to put that back and enrich that whole meal so that we're always feasting and supporting the arts by going to theater, live theater especially.
Well, you're so right. And it's so important because if you go back to the scourge of AIDS and you realize the creative talent that we lost, I mean, it was devastating. I mean, Michael Bennett and Gower Champion, just to name two. And you think about audience members who could be future directors and choreographers and composers and lyricists. They just never had the opportunity to see and or learn from these great, great talents. So you're 100% right. We need a whole new generation to populate the theater. And the first step is seeing a show. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, you know, my grandmother took me to my first Broadway show, usually a Jerry Herman show, and it changed their lives. So my shout out is go grab a young person and take them to the show. You have no idea how it might change their lives for the better.
Yeah, the magic is there. We have to take a quick break for news and sports here on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. #1 talk in the IE. Thank you very much. With Dr. Marissa, Asian Oprah. We will be right back with Jane Dorian, the goddaughter of the illustrious Jerry Herman, who brought so much joy through music on stage and off. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We're going to hear we're going to hear a word from our sponsor today. We'll be back in 2 and 2. Chuck Woolery or Peace In, Peace Out. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And it's Dr. Marissa about to report live on the red carpet of the 25th Newport Beach Film Festival, October 17th through 24th. And I'm, again, the proud sponsor of the Chinese Spotlight Film, and I get to give away free passes to the Pacific Showcase, which highlights and celebrates all things Asian film, food, and fun. So tune into my show. Take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show, to find out how to win passes for the Asian Oprah giveaway, as well as the promo code. So you can get discount tickets at www.newportbeachfilmfest.com. We'll see you there soon.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back, and you're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, NBC News Radio, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and of course my YouTube TV channel, where you can not just listen, but watch as well. Fabulous guests, and also my red carpet playlist. Free subscribe. You'll see my interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones, and more. And today I am delighted to have a very special guest who is bringing us really interesting information, true information about one of the classic musician doesn't cut it. The all-around artist who is responsible for some of the biggest names in musicals, Broadway, stars, Jerry's Girls, not Jerry Lewis, but Jerry Herman, who has this beautiful relationship and put Carol Channing, Bernadette Peters, I want to hear about that one, Angela Lansbury that we just talked about, and more. And to tell us is someone who knew him so well, his beloved goddaughter, Jane Dorian, who is here in studio live today to bring us her godfather. Welcome back to the show, Jane Dorian.
Hello again.
Hello.
So you wanted to know about Bernadette Peters. Well, most people would know that Bernadette Peters starred in Mack and Mable, which was the love story, or really anti-love story, between Mabel Normand and Mack Sennett. And she was just delicious as Mabel Normand. But here is a little lesser known story. So I asked Jerry to be my daughter's godfather as well. And as a little girl, she loved playing with Barney the dinosaur. And so Cheryl Leach, who created Barney, asked if Jerry would write the theme song for the new movie. And because of his relationship with my daughter, he said, okay, I will give it a try. So they played together for 3 days. And the first 2 days, Jerry said, I don't know if I can do this. Now, you have to understand, too, Jerry wrote the music and the lyrics simultaneously. It isn't like, okay, I'm going to write, lyrics and then put music to it. I've asked him this many times. He said, no, it just all kind of comes together. So on the third day, he's playing with my daughter on the floor, as they often did. And like that, he got it. He said, I'll be right back, because we lived in Bel Air at the time. He went down the hill to his house and he wrote the song Barney's World of Imagination, because he realized that this little plush toy and the character was the conduit to open up a child's world of imagination and made them feel safe enough to do so. So Bernadette Peters recorded Barney's World of Imagination with this like 30 or 40 piece orchestra. I have to double check how many pieces there were in the orchestra. And it's a glorious, glorious song. So if anybody wants to find something fun of Bernadette Peters, look for Barney's World of Imagination. So that was an awful lot of fun. But getting back to Jerry's Girls, his mother being his number one, when we were talking about the crypt that you referenced earlier, Jerry actually has an empty crypt at Pierce Brothers Westwood Memorial, where all of the big stars are buried. And we're talking about Billy Wilder, Farrah Fawcett, Truman Capote, just to name a few. Okay, so in the 11th hour, Jerry decided he wanted to be buried next to his best girls. So he decided to be buried right in between his mother and my mother back in New Jersey, which left this crypt available. So on October 25th, Studio Auctions, you can look them up, studioauctions.com, is auctioning off this empty crypt. So if you want to spend eternity next to the two sexiest people of our time, this is your opportunity. Now, Jerry, if you don't love him already because of his incredible music and lyrics, Jerry was very philanthropic as well. And he set up a foundation with the ASCAP Foundation. And Jerry, through Jerry's additional foundation, the Jerry Herman Foundation, which is tied in with ASCAP Foundation, brings workshops, musical theater workshops, to college-age kids and teaches them about musical theater. And those who sort of meet the qualifications are eligible for a scholarship. And this will be for decades and decades and decades to come. So Jerry determined that his personal items were to be auctioned, and which will happen at Doyle, through Doyle's, on December 14th. So if you go to Doyle.com, you can see all of the items that are being auctioned off. And spoiler alert, one of the items being auctioned off is his piano. So, right? So if you want to touch the same keys that Jerry has touched, again, here's your opportunity. And the proceeds from that auction go to his foundation through ASCAP Foundation to help support these wonderful programs. And this is, ties into what we were talking about earlier. It's so important that kids get to see shows, but also it's super important that those that are interested in learning about the mechanics and what makes a musical and characterization and all those things, they will have the opportunity through Jerry's program. Oh, you're so good. You're looking through all this. Oh, there you go. I think Ethel Merman, Hello Dolly, may be what you might want to click on. Let's see. So those are two very, very worthwhile auctions. And we hope that your viewers will check in. So again, it's studioauctions.com for October 25th and Doyle's on December 14th, Doyle.com. So
Yeah, I went to the studio auctions and I couldn't find his particular, so that's why I looked for it and it didn't. So you might want to go to them.
I
and
will do,
see.
but you're on September 22nd, and we need to go to October 25th. So I will make sure that that is.
Yeah, I put in his name and it didn't come up.
Okay, I will let them know. Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, this is what I love doing because
You are a detective of everything else.
but yeah, this I just love the photos. You know, black and white photos. That picture with actually color photos, but the picture with Angela Lansbury, she's gorgeous in that picture. Not that she's not gorgeous.
So, you know what? She is gorgeous. She was gorgeous. Unfortunately, she is no longer with us. And that has always been one of the biggest challenges of mounting another Mame, because Angela Lansbury was 40 years old when she played Mame, and Mame is a young, glamorous woman until the last two scenes of the play where she is aged. And there aren't as many glamorous stars, superstars that can carry a show that are in their 40s, because so many of them went on to do television. But yes, these women were just, they were phenomenal. And look how young Jerry was in that photograph too. I mean,
yeah,
he was in his 20s when he wrote his first Broadway musical. I mean, that's especially today, that was unheard of.
That is Irving Berlin's piano I got to play.
Oh, no, that was auctioned for big, big money back in the day. Now, I have to say, okay, so the two things that Irving Berlin and Jerry Herman have in common are neither one of them could read or write music.
What?
Correct. So Jerry was rejected from Juilliard because they said, you have a gift, and if we train you, we will ruin that gift. And oh boy, were they right. Thank goodness they turned him down. But neither Irving Berlin nor Jerry could read or write music. So, you know, they would, you know, Jerry would play into a tape recorder or a reel to reel back in the day. And then somebody would write out, you know, would transcribe it for him, which was kind of funny. But both Irving Berlin and Jerry understood melody. They were songwriters, and that's why these songs just kind of stick in your heart, and you never let go.
Yeah. Hello, Dolly.
Okay, you're hired.
Oh, I love my life. Let's go to, let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, we talked about the crypt. Let's see. Jerry Herman's musicals that have not yet been produced.
Yes, so he wrote a concept album called Miss Spectacular. And the quick story on it was going to be produced in Las Vegas. Steve Wynn kind of oversaw it. But when the sale of a property, I just need to get rid of my phone. Hold on one second.
Thank you.
How's that for modern technology?
There you go.
But when it couldn't be produced for real estate reasons than anything else, Jerry did this fabulous concept album, and it's a concept that has not yet been written. Hopefully it will be written soon, but I would love to bring it to Las Vegas and put it on. It is so much fun. And you know what? Everybody says, if only there could be one more Jerry Herman musical. And this is it. So we're going to work very hard to make sure that we get this one up and running as soon as possible.
Yeah, let me know whatever I can do to.
Thank you. And you'll have to come to the opening when we have it.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be so much fun.
How many musicals did he write?
Well, let's kind of bifurcate the Broadway shows versus the off-Broadway shows.
Okay.
And also one other thing too that people may not know, he was also what's called as a show doctor. Sometimes there's a Broadway show where they're just a little bit stuck and they need one more song and they can't quite figure it out. So Jerry, I'm just mentioning these two shows because some of my favorite songs are in these two shows. But A Day in Hollywood, A Night in the Ukraine has two songs that Jerry wrote. And Best in the World is one of those, which is amazing. And then also Ben Franklin in Paris, To Be Alone with You. Glorious song. I loved it so much that I sang it to my husband when we got married. So,
and you're a singer too then.
Started out as a singer, dancer, actress, but you know, that was then, and life happens and you kind of transition to different things. But so he did Madame Aphrodite, Nightcap, I Feel Wonderful. Those would probably be the three biggest off-Broadway shows. And he was on the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, you could see the promise there. And then he was asked to write Milk and Honey, which was his first Broadway show. And that's all about sort of the birth of Israel, of sort of the getting the feeling and the spirit, and sort of a window for an American to understand what Israel is all about, and the allure and the promise of this new nation. And some of his absolute most beautiful songs are in there. That is the show where you see the promise and it gets fulfilled throughout the rest of his career. Again, I would encourage everybody to listen to Milk and Honey. It's going to be one of those wow moments when you realize how glorious the music is. And from there, David Merrick saw the show. And for your audience members who may not know, David Merrick was probably the biggest producer in New York back in the 50s and 60s. And so he saw the show, he recognized Jerry's talent. He said, "Kid," he said, "this is a show about Israel." He said, "Do you think you could do an American musical?" And Jerry said, "Mr. Merrick, there's nobody more American in apple pie than me. Of course I can do it." And that was Hello, Dolly. Interesting fact, Hello, Dolly was the first happy musical after the Kennedy assassination. And our nation needed to heal. And, you know, Hello, Dolly is a perfect show, period.
It is.
But it deserves sort of heaven status because it serves such an important need in this country, because it allowed us to heal. We were able to say, you know, the Kennedy assassination is this huge tragedy, but life goes on. And the underlying theme of Hello, Dolly is second chances. So this was our nation's second chance to get back on our feet and to do better. And so for that reason, Hello, Dolly has a special place in my heart. And a lot of people may not also realize Louis Armstrong recorded the song Hello, Dolly before it ever opened. And that was in the day where we had 45 records. So the first side A, was always this big popular song, and side B was this throwaway song. So Louis Armstrong was in studio, and one of his band leaders said, "Hey, why don't you just try this song?" He never even saw it. He was sight reading the song, and the song blew the Beatles off the charts. It was that popular.
It's one of my favorite recordings.
Isn't it great? He was an amazing artist. So then there, Mame came. So Jerry just thought you wrote a Broadway show, and it was a wild success. And then after Mame, then came Dear World, which some of his most beautiful songs, and one that he's very proud of, which is And I Was Beautiful, because he felt that he stripped down everything extraneous or excessive, and just the pure emotion of the song was there. So then you had Dear World, then you had Mack and Mable, which really achieved cult status. Some people say it's his best score. And then you had the Grand Tour. And those three were not very successsul. Then he saw the movie La Cage, and he said, "I have to write this." So he and Harvey Fierstein Harvey wrote the book, or I should say adapted the book. Jerry wrote the music and lyrics, and Arthur Lawrence directed. And the rest, as they say, was history. It was a sensation. So he did Jerry's Girls on Broadway, and he got to, play for all of those fabulous, Broadway stars, which he just loved. And then there've been, I always like to say, somewhere in the world, there's always a Jerry Herman show playing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm just doing a little research here, and I'm so glad that you can actually watch all of these things. I just pulled this up. Disney subscription. Those of you who are on Disney can watch it for free. I need to hit them up for promo.
So just to clarify, what I just mentioned were Jerry's Broadway shows. 2 movies were done of his shows. Hello, Dolly with Barbara Streisand, and then Mame was with Lucille Ball.
Okay, so this is not the actual, this is a movie about the musical.
This was the movie version of the musical.
Okay. Did he get any proceeds from that, or just curious? Because in those days.
So, yes, he's a rights holder, so yes.
Okay, good.
He's got a very good agent. There's no way that.
Okay, good. You hear horror stories about that time. One of my beautiful guests who became friends was Marianne from Gilligan's Island, Dawn Wells. And it was so sad when, I got to know her that they don't get money. They didn't get money from the residuals.
Yep. So no, those laws have changed, and there's a very interesting discussion going on. I don't have an opinion per se, but how does AI affect all of this? The big question of AI, is it good, is it bad? And really it's just depends on how it's used. I heard one scenario where I said, wow, this is fantastic, where if you're a television writer and you're under the gun to present a script weekly very, very quickly, and you don't know how to end an episode, you plug it into AI and it may give you 15 possible endings, and then the writer can choose which ending he or she feels is best. Mm-hmm. That to me is a great use of AI. But if AI comes in and tries to completely take over, well, then we've lost, that, call it the spark of God, that spark of creativity.
That creativity. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's uniquely human. I mean, mm-hmm. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around thinking that we can be reduced to an algorithm.
Yeah. But, and like you said, to have an opinion at this point on this stuff, I always just point back to the fact that we're the ones that actually created AI. So, we got to remember that, we can problem solve around
this. So I wonder sometimes too, when the automobile replaced the horse and buggy, I wonder if, our grandparents and great grandparents were not having a similar conversation, and yet, horses didn't go away. So the way we're going, we may go back to horses,
Right. Absolutely. And we've been using AI for our comfort for a long time now.
It's true. We just
navigation systems and, Siri's, my best friend and my assistant. And so anyways.
Any place without our AI would be lost.
I know. So anyways, but we're preaching to each other's choir here, and I'm glad to hear that for sure. But I just pulled up that production on YouTube. Is that a good one to watch? Again, the whole I don't want to promote things that are pirated.
No. I believe 20th Century Fox has Hello, Dolly, and I'm sure that they made an agreement with Disney. I can't imagine Disney doing anything that would be a rights violation. So I think that would be just fine.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Always try and find a Jerry Herman Broadway show, and look at your regional theater, or even if you're traveling abroad. I mean, they do Hello, Dolly and La Cage in Tokyo and in Munich and Berlin and, wherever you go, London, just, we always say across the pond, the British are huge fans of musical theater. So I feel that the emotion, particularly in the music, is so universal that everyone can participate.
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, as usual, I'm out of time. We could go on. There's so much. I love learning new things. And today's show was packed with wonderful new things that I got to discover and learn. Thank you so much.
Dr. Marissa, thank you for having me on, and to your audience members as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, folks, as usual, thank you for being here. You know, this is a show about hope and happiness, and I hope you share this and share Jane and help out the nonprofits that Jerry Herman left his legacy and some of his things to auction off. Both his, if you want to be next to Hugh Hefner and Marilyn Monroe, go to the auction house. That's going to be happening October.
Yes, October's 25th, Studio Auctions.
Yes, studioauctions.com. And then the other one is Doyle.
Yes, Doyle.com.
Doyle.
And that's memorabilia.
Great. And that is proceeds are going to help
the ASCAP Foundation, Jerry Herman's fund, ASCAP Foundation.
Fantastic. All right. If you would do this with me, Jane, I sign out of every show with peace in, peace out.
Peace out.
World peace.
Peace.
Through inner peace.
Through inner peace.
Thank you so much, Jane Dorian, here on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. Now go and have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow.